Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hi, everyone.
Morning.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Oh, my video is not working. Hold on a sec. There we go. Hey, good morning, everyone. Wow, a lot of folks here. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Can hear you.
All right. Yeah, good to see everybody. Happy New Year. Wow, there's a good crowd. Thank you for coming. Yeah, it's 10:01. We usually give a couple. We might as well just dive in. I guess we got a bunch of new people today. I guess let me drop the notes in the chat. You can put your name in there. If you have specific items you want to add to the agenda, you can put them in there, either today or for next time. Why don't we have a couple people that are new just kind of say hi? Saeem, you want to go first? Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes. Thanks, Josh. So I am Sain. I'm working on this Parallels open source project. So it's now a CNCF sandbox project. So its basically aim was to give developer access the resources they need, and plus kind of a security in mind. Plus we work on with things, IDPs, developer portals, all those kind of things is going to be stay here for a longer run. So we'll try to be in that place as well. So I'm the maintainer of that project as well. I'm joined by my team member Abhinav Mishra on the call today as well. So this is my primarily job as in managing and outreaching the Parallels open source project. And a part of that, I'm also running the podcast on my YouTube channel that's called Cloud Native Podcast. So basically the aim was to connect with the different mind over the world and to see what people are building, what open source tools they have. So I've done 24 live streams in 2022 and looking forward to more. And now I have so many guests here, so looking forward to have talk with you in the future as well.
Thanks. Anyone else new? Abhinav, you want to say hello?
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Josh. My name is Abhinav. I'm a senior product manager here at Rafe. Rafe, we're basically building a Kubernetes operations platform for platform teams, right? And so a lot of these things that come into play, backstage, IDPs, something that excited to, of course, learn from you about and contribute, stuff that we've learned from, many enterprises as they're looking to scale, build out their own IDPs. Would love to share, that information as well, and really kind of help grow the space. I think there's tremendous impact. I've watched some of your videos on YouTube and just, so much thought leadership in this area. So it's really, a great privilege to learn from all of you and to be here today. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. There's a couple other, I don't want to take two, but we're still in the first 5 minutes. Taras and Johan, want to say hello?
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Johannes. I'm a platform engineer in Austria, and we just created the small startup where we want to help other companies adopting Kubernetes or platforms based on Kubernetes. And I just came across your Slack channel and your working group, and I was just curious what you're talking about or working on. Probably I'm just in listening mode in the first couple of sessions, but yeah, I'm curious how I can help or learn from all of you. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Johan. That's great. Actually, one of the agenda items that I put on here today is to talk about what else, what we're doing, what we're working on, and possibilities for people to help out. So that's great. And hi, Taras. Nice to meet you in video. I know we were chatting this past week.
Hey, Josh. Yeah, nice to meet you as well. So I posted in chat. I'm CEO of a small consulting company called Frontside. We are a Backstage professional services partner. We've been working with Backstage for over 2.5 years. We provide Backstage enterprise support, so we see a lot of like how Backstage is being used on ITPs instead of companies, and what companies are trying to accomplish with it. So what I'd like to do is I'm particularly interested in how we can make it easier for platform teams to adopt Backstage and align Backstage with the platform, and how it can accelerate GitHub's adoption. So I'd like to learn more about and contribute to that conversation, and then bring everything that I learned. I'm going to share with the Backstage community and the platform engineering community.
That's awesome. I mean, even in the conversations we had at the end of 2022, Backstage's place and how it fits together has come up a lot. So it's good to have your representation. Anyone else want to say hello? I think everybody else has been on calls before. So unless you're Rafa, you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, no, I have a lot to answer Tara's question.
Oh, on the GitHubs?
It could take it.
Put that on the agenda.
So,
hey, Raphael.
Hi.
We met before.
Yeah, we have.
I put it on the agenda if we get to it at the end. So what I have on the agenda today, I want to discuss where we're at with the platform's definition paper, and talk to you all about what we do next. Saim asked if he could talk about Parallels. Maybe you could present that for 5-10 minutes, if that's okay, Saim. And then I wanted to talk about possibilities for what comes next. I kind of have bounced these off in like the Slack channels in our conversations, but I just wanted to bring them up, see what else people are thinking. So if that's all right with you. I'm just following along in this agenda here. Okay, so the platform's definition paper, I think we kind of got at the end of last year to a pretty decent draft foundation. We chatted a lot about the different sections there. I think we have 6 or 7 now. Challenges and metrics were a couple that folks asked us to add in the past few weeks. And I think the challenges section is decent, although there's more research that could be done. The metrics definitely could use a little more work. So I guess I wanted to ask you all or talk about like where we go with it next. So I put it into, I took an attempt over the break to put it into GitHub and break it into sections. I was wondering, I guess first, do we think it's time to move it over to GitHub? Is that the best approach? Would people like to take responsibility for sections? To kind of say this section, needs these edits or it's ready to go. Is that a good approach?
Yeah, John, I wouldn't mind reading, since this is my kind of first time here. So I wouldn't mind just giving it a read through, see what kind of we've seen in terms of, measuring success for platform teams and kind of what are the success criteria. And I can take a stab at adding some comments if that sounds good with you, across the paper. If there's anything we want to add or tweak, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, that's definitely awesome, and folks have been doing that for the past couple months, and there's a lot in the doc, and yeah, for sure, keep commenting there. At least we all read it, or people that are on the doc read it. I'm kind of wondering like the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
Did we move to GitHub already, or
sort of? I put out
because
this.
I left a few comments there, but then I saw some new changes to the Word document. It's
just kind of a mix.
Where to look next. Okay.
I've been doing some edits in the doc because it's easier, and also not everything was moved over. But the idea of that first milestone was to kind of show like what one potential way we might do it, and kind of see. It's kind of hard to get feedback on 10 PR, so that's why I'm kind of bringing it up here. Is that a good approach? One thing that somebody was asking me this morning how to do it, and I was like, well, maybe we just put the whole thing into a work in progress branch, and then assign from that branch, like say, you know, Thomas, you take one section, Josh, I'll take one section, and then, you know, iterate forward. And then when we feel we're ready in a month or two, I don't want to take too long, maybe by KubeCon EU, then we merge it over to main.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea, because then we can just work all collaboratively in one branch and not have to worry about, like, you know, separate issues, right, altogether. So
Yes, and Josh, for I want to know, like, once this purple is published and is been ready, where is actually going to be rolled out? Is going to be the CNCF website, or how actually we publish this into the community?
Yeah. How will we publish? I mean, we have a few options, pretty much up to us. As I understand, I know, Abby, you talk with Thomas, and you guys are both here. So do you want to give insights there, or your suggestions?
I followed a similar process with operator white paper one year ago, and I think it will be almost the same for this white paper. So there will be kind of a publication from the CNCF, which is your white paper. And when we published this white paper, there was also a blog post from the CNCF about this, to promote this a bit. We could also think of adding this to the end user blog, to the end user mailing list, and so on. So there are many ways to promote the content.
Even the way we publish, I think, like I noticed Cartographos, which is the cloud native maturity model. It seems like their main publishing is a doc and GitHub. So I don't know if we think that's a reasonable way. We could, I mean, we'll publish the blog post obviously and call attention to it and things like that. Or we can publish a PDF. That I think Thomas and Abby, you had mentioned PDF, something like that. Not a big
Sounds
deal.
like
to
they
me.
kind of do that for you.
The scope of the paper
They'll do that for
makes
us.
sense to publish a PDF.
Okay, so they have some sort of publishing process.
I think it'd be good. You mentioned kind of setting a time scale of KubeCon Europe. I think that's a really good point. If it's not KubeCon Europe, when is the like cutoff? And if it is KubeCon Europe, when do we need to have this in the CNCF's hands to have it PDF'd by then? Because I think one of the big things as well is just we're hopefully going to perpetually have rolling new members to this group. And so there will always be more feedback, and that's what V2 is for as well, right? So it doesn't mean we want to like, I think that we're still in the stage of feedback on the current one, just to be clear. I know, Abhinav, I don't want to like sound like I'm like, don't read in feedback, but I think if in like a month or two, we have someone new, you know, in March, I think we're starting to get to like, when is there not going to be a new voice? And we kind of have to like pick a date and go for it.
Edits can be endless, and analysis paralysis is real, right? So I totally get what you're saying there.
We're not there yet though, but I think getting, if we pick date, Josh, I don't know if you feel comfortable saying trying to publish by KubeCon Europe, then I think maybe one conversation to have is an email out to, I think it was, I shared it in the Slack. I think it's press@ or something, PR@cncf.io, and basically ask them the question of like, you know, here's our draft. When do you need us to stamp this with approval to be able to have this published before KubeCon? And then that'll give us our deadline basically.
Perfect. Okay, so our next step is to email those guys, right?
Yes, I think like what I noticed is I think bunch of the CNC actually publish, they actually write a blog post about it, and they open a link in their blog post, click on the link, you go to the PDF, and then you can download the white paper from it.
Yeah.
So I think the process should be the same.
To your other question, Josh, I think my personal opinion, I think this is what Thomas shared with me, was that having them all separated makes it hard to understand the whole picture. So I think your idea of a WIP branch makes a lot of sense for people to be able to make sure that they're like contextualizing the sections, because you could totally imagine someone reads a
Yeah.
section and goes, but we haven't defined these words yet. And it's like, yes, well,
Mhm.
actually in the document we do. And so, yeah, I quite like that proposal. So
Cool, thank you.
So
I'll
I
work
think
on-
when we find a valid way to manage such documents in Git, we should propose it to the GitOps working group.
To the GitOps working group? Are they looking for something here too?
Yes, so or for open GitOps and so on for standardizing such things.
Oh, you just generally, yeah. Yeah, I took a stab at using this tool called Bike Shed, which is its name alone gives away that, we could talk about it forever, which is W3C's tool for aggregating up documents and publishing it. I was just trying to find something that would help. I don't know. We don't want to think too much about it, but
if
you
there
could,
is
you could
any-
set it up. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just think like it would be very good if we could find some sort of way that kind of makes sense to at least like these types of scenarios, because yes, like open GitOps, there's going to be patterns and going to be blueprints, green prints, white prints, whatever color prints, and so on and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to change there, which if we can automate and package that in a proper way once and for all, it would be really great.
so good. Let's work on that in this work in progress branch also. I'll put the Bike Shed thing in the initial one and everyone can tear it apart. Okay. So on that, and I guess so do we want to meet we should meet as a group about the content at some point. We could use this meeting a little bit for it if we want. I'm thinking about this. Should we meet specifically to talk about the content at some point? Should we talk about that now?
I would suggest like setting some sort of time to specifically do that, so people can have a chance to schedule reading through everything and making up their mind about stuff. So everyone get their time that they need to process was already there.
Okay. So yeah. So do we meet? So is the next this all up meeting is Monday is first and third. Should we meet next week if people want to meet at this time? Okay, and what I want to ask is, and kind of related to that, is so I'll put this work in progress branch, I'll get this going, I'll work on this probably by the end of today, I should be able to get that up there. How can we designate folks to take sections? How should we do that? Should we open an
Tag
issue?
people into issues.
That's a good idea. Let me write that down. So I'll create an issue for each section, like for the operator paper. Create an issue for each section and assign folks.
That would be a good start, and that might enforce a good flow when people down the road, when people have suggestions, they can open up an issue and have a discussion around it, do a PR against it, that kind of thing.
Cool, yeah, and then that milestone 1, instead of a list of PRs, will become a list of issues. I'll put them all in that. Nice.
Out of curiosity, Josh, is there a set of people that need kind of final approval on this? So one thing, I've been sort of silent on this front for the last few weeks because I've been very engaged early on, and I feel like I am familiar with what's in the doc. I feel like we've had good conversations, and I'm sort of not sure where the line goes from there's been feedback in to needs to be approval. And it felt like I was getting to the point where diminishing returns on feedback from me, because I'd already been involved so much. Yeah, so when you're talking about assigning people, are there either SIG or working group people that are actually kind of the approvers, or is this a level below that before we go to the approvers? Or yeah, what are you thinking on that front?
I think that from the SIG or TAG or Ouija, it's more a process level approval, less content. The folks like Alois and Jen and Hong Chao aren't so much here. I mean, I don't know if we can easily get folks like commit access, but I was thinking if it's our group, it's people that kind of volunteer. It's like, you know, open source, and to some degree, we'll all keep an eye on each other and hopefully, you know, arrive at consensus in the GitHub issues and stuff.
Yeah, I would suggest you can set up just leverage code owners like you would on another repo. Have those be the people internally that are approval.
Yeah, can you do code owners within a folder?
So
yes.
you could, I would probably say at least you can limit it to a branch. So we could protect the draft branch and maybe like the master branch. And code owners can control, like maybe you require review on a PR from a code owner in order for that to be mergeable into the draft branch. And then you just make it so we could just make it the workflow. Whoever's got final approval or we're publishing a version or something that can get merged into main or can do a release or something there. But you could probably start with just some measure of control around the draft branch that way. And then that way we can all kind of collaborate. We could peer review even or tag some other people, and maybe you require multiple approvals and at least one of those is from a code owner.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it makes sense, and also, you know, we have to be a little bit wary about, like I said, like any type of write access and stuff like that, because there's very few that has that. So maybe like a final, code owner should probably be someone that actually can do stuff, but also make sure that like certain persons have their say in certain sections. I think it's something we could just do and see how it goes. Yeah, Thomas.
As we are on the tag repository there, we have some kind of a rule. So write access, I think, only have the tag leads themselves. And in this case, the working group leads. So Josh and Robert in this case. And they can also be code owners for that to approve the content which comes to the repository. And I think that's okay in this case. This worked also pretty well in the operator white paper. If the approver goes fast, let's say it this way. So.
Cool. So we'll iterate. I'll open an issue. So if I don't get the code owners in the first push commit for the branch, then I'll open an issue for it. I'll probably open an issue and we can work on it together.
You can also open up a pull request for that.
Okay.
Yeah, for updating code owners, that shouldn't be an issue. It's just create a pull request on that.
Yeah. Okay, that's all we need. Yeah, and then the other, like, Abby, I'm wondering if you're kind of asking this too. Like, one of the reasons why, like, I guess I am trying to drag this a little out. Like, we started this work kind of after KubeCon US, and originally to light a fire, I kind of said, let's get it published by the end of the year. Now I'm kind of dragging it to January. But I kind of see all of us in this group as the ones that are approving this as we go. So that's why I'm, kind of waiting to get people looking at it. And I mean, there's been comments the past week from Chris Sanishik was in there, and Henrik Blixt from the Argo folks, a couple other interesting ones. So get a lot of eyes on it. And that's I think that's one of my goals. It's something that we can all rally around.
Absolutely. I think it's like that in itself is good. It's almost the question of what more do we get from publishing is actually the question you have to ask. Because like if it's a matter of just refining ideas and sharing across the industry, there's tons of that we've already got and we're going to continue to get as we go. And then it's like someone was asking about the marketing of it, like what we're hoping to use this for. I think you've mentioned some things of your goals of then diving into the deeper, this being quite a broad, what is a platform, and then what, talking about very specific things underneath it. I think, yeah. So no, I don't mean to be rushing it along by any means.
Cool. Yeah, definitely KubeCon EU. I feel like that's the ultimate limit. Like we might even get it done before that in the next, few weeks, depending on how we all feel, I guess. Okay.
But I think then you have to be finished at the start of March somehow.
Okay. Oh, good point. Okay. So we got to start that thread here.
Because you have to plan in some comment periods and so on. The publishing of the document was the easiest thing in the end. So to get this done.
So basically, when do we get the PR to main is probably going to be latest end of March, something like that. We got to get the email to this PR thing, but it's a good bet.
I think that's a good idea. At some point in time, when you are comfortable to have a reviewable version, we could also announce this in the QC meeting to get feedback from there. And
do you know if the authors of team topologies also know about this paper? I think they really have a good view about what platform teams, what's the mission of the platform teams and what platforms are all about. I think you know them, right? Manuel Peisch and Matthew Kelton. Probably they could also have a look at the paper.
I can ping them if that's helpful. We've been working with them. They're doing an event we're doing an event in a few months. So
cool.
Some contact.
I think anything from kind of like from them, even if it's like a little like introduction to text somewhere about something, could be like a great addition to not to just have like the things that we've been doing, about like having that from the perspective of someone who's kind of written a book about how you're supposed to structure these things and why have these types of teams. That would be great.
Josh, I'll hold off until we have a more formal place for review. Sounds like that WIP branch, and then I'll be happy to take that.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
Is there interest in having, we use a professional editor. He has a PhD in English for editing of a blog post. Is there interest in getting someone who is not a technologist to do a passive editing for readability? What do you folks think about that?
I would say yes. If you're able to get someone in that could do that, that would be great. It's not only, we're not only technical people that might choose to write something in a very convoluted technical manner, but there's also people from different nationalities with different, languages, and there might like creep up stuff that we don't notice. So having someone that can just focus on like the text flow and making sure that everything makes sense would be great.
So maybe we can hold off on it until we feel like the document is in a stable state, like we have all the things in there that we want, and then at that point I can take it to him to do a pass. His process is a bit different. Like I'd have to export it to a Word doc, and then he's going to do edits in the Word doc, but then I can just take those edits, bring it back to here, and then you folks get to look at it and see which of that we want to actually use.
Awesome. So anything else on the paper that people want to bring up right now? So Saeem, I hope, would it be okay if we first, did Saeem drop off anyway? I mean, obviously you're still here. Would it be okay if we talk about the next steps first, and then we'll dive into Perilous possibly towards the end here?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. So I wanted that, we've got a good group here. We're getting some critical mass. That's the word, right? So I wanted to talk to you about what we can do next. The goal of this group is to facilitate delivery of infrastructure and apps together in a coordinated way. This was originally called the Cooperative Delivery Group. We're calling that platforms now, but ultimately the goal is, of CNCF in general and the tag is to support our projects, to support users of these projects, giving them content, giving them guidance, giving the project some insight into what their users are doing, which is why we're writing this paper. But I'm just giving that as a background in terms of what might guide our next steps here. I put a few down in the doc. I guess I'll just, thanks, Robert, for that comment. I guess I'll just read through. These are just ideas that I've, had kind of along the way. One is to get a level deeper with, is to talk to the project users. And talk to users, but since we're CNCF and the goal is to to help cloud native users, to help our projects, identify the users to talk to as users of those projects. So if somebody, let's find some, cross-plane using companies and talk to them. Let's find some, Kratix or Dapper, or any of the projects that are in there and talk to them about how this has fit in, what they're trying to achieve. This is kind of vague at this point. But this was just one possibility where we go next. We might even aggregate, like if we could create like a bit of a framework, which I had started on, I guess, a year ago. There's a GitHub doc, which is a kind of a forum for collecting feedback. But we could create like, and it's got like 5 or 6 questions, but it needs to be fixed up a little. We could create a framework for that, talk to people, and then put info into our GitHub repo and maybe aggregate it up, integrate it into a next version of the platform definition, maybe more references to actual customer stories and things. That was one possibility, is finding more ways to interview users. The next one I put on there is building a prototypical platform, as again, to guide users. Like, so I'm trying, Rafa, I'm actually looking at you as I'm saying this. I know you've done some projects like this. I have, probably a bunch of us have, and I called out Mauricio's because I was impressed with what he did back in KubeCon, is that, we could, like in the Potato Head effort, but maybe a little more refined, create a prototypical platform, including a lot of these projects that we talk about, and gives us a chance to experiment ourselves or suggest some patterns. That was another possibility. And then the last one I put is dive into each capability. And that's kind of why I like this list of capabilities, because it kind of sets a framework for what we might do next. Like in each of those, let's say observability, let's say, write up what that means and how they fit together, where they might go in a platform and the relevant projects. Secrets management or bindings and things like that. Write that up in a doc and put it into our thing also. It's all would fit together then, like as a platform engineer, I'm trying to get started, or I'm starting my platform engineering team, then I read through and I understand each of these, or dive into the ones that I don't understand as much.
Yeah, so I actually shared a Medium article. So this was by he's, I believe, director of SRE or something at Palo Alto, Ramesh, and he has this really good blog series that he's still in the process of writing. So he's written the first 2 parts about how he's basically crafted Palo Alto Networks platform engineering team and how they're using Backstage, what are kind of the key things that they're wanting to solve for from an outcome point of view, right? So there's some things around like, developer observability for their apps. And so, Palo Alto is saying like, hey, like we built this kind of observability thing on top of Backstage. And you can kind of, whenever you build an app as a developer, just point it to this observability thing and kind of like bring your own app into this observability platform now. So these are kind of the things, we're noticing, at least from the IDP side of things. There's like this, self-service infrastructure component, right? There's a app lifecycle component, and that's where the Argos and, GitOps things are coming into play, right? And then there's a observability and visibility kind of component, for your applications, for those infrastructure pieces. And so I thought that was a really good article to share. And I think we're, at least from my point of view, starting to see a lot of thought leadership articles in the space. So that's maybe another piece of information that we can combine in terms of some research that we're doing potentially.
Sorry, Josh. I was just say, pairing that with the going deeper on the capabilities, one thing I was chatting to some people about recently is I know you're all gonna cringe and it's gonna be totally fair, but the conversation of a maturity model associated with platforms. And because we've talked a bit about the fact that like platforms don't require golden paths, but that might be what you can do when you have clawed back enough of your time to be able to design those kinds of experiences, because you're no longer fighting fires, right? And so what does that look like? And if we can do it without the word maturity model in it, it will be even better, but I couldn't think of a better word. So that's just to get the idea across.
Yeah, one other idea, Josh, if you want to jot it down. I wonder if there are now several startups that are trying to create IDP, right? Either as a product, that you can install on-prem or as a service. I wonder if they would be willing to talk to us, and if we could be able to try to identify some common themes across what they're doing, and maybe try to drive some, I'm afraid to say the word, but maybe common interfaces. Like maybe at some point we could even, I wonder if we could get to a point where we could define a common interface that an IDP can implement, right? I don't know, between some part of the IDPs, like the service mesh interface, right? That was defined by the service mesh working group. Now, an IDP obviously is way, way more complicated. So I'm not saying, I don't want to trivialize the concept, but if we could start to identify those common theme that an IDP needs to have based on the work that the startups are doing, maybe at some point we could get there, or at least we could drive these, like you said, there are some capabilities that all the IDPs need to have. So maybe, like you said, we want to meet the users, but perhaps we also want to meet the product developers.
The maintainers. Yeah, I like that. That's what I was thinking as you were saying that.
Yeah. Do you know
yes,
who,
Josh, I think like... So just Josh, I think there's another very cool project in the CNCF ecosystem that's called Crossplane. I think we definitely want to get in touch with those folk as well to join this group as well, because they are doing some kind of integration for the IDPs. Like they have a tool called Crossplane that help you build resources in the cloud using Kubernetes. So I think those folk are also interested in. So I will try. I know some of the folks. I have some connection with the Crossplane community. So I will try to share the link with those people. Hopefully they can join in future. They really help us because they are really working in this area for a very long time.
Yeah, thank you, Saim. We have talked with Victor Farcic. He comes sometimes. Yeah, Crossplane is a pretty hot topic in this area.
Rafael, do you know any company, any companies in particular that stand out that you think would be good possible people to talk to?
Certainly, Humanitech for me stands out.
I would say Humanitech as well. I personally work at a company who does exactly this. That's kind of why I'm here. And there's probably other people who are also doing services that are, geared towards like the platform engineering, internal developer platform scenario, more or less. So I'm sure there's, we're going to be able to find several people to contact about this.
Do you have contacts with Humanitech folks?
Yeah, we do actually. We could actually go. They actually came. Who came from Humanitech? Mallory. Hi, and the Score, because they are also the ones that did Score, and they're presenting that actually next week for Tag App Delivery.
I talked with Humanitech several times. Should be an issue to get.
So we could.
I have contact with Casper also. This CEO.
The CEO.
Depending, yeah. We need to first frame exactly what we're going to ask them, right? We cannot ask for the secret sauce, right? But maybe to define what an IDP is for them, right? And they actually do already a pretty good job in their. They have a sister website, right? The IDP.org, that Internet Developer Platform.org, which they found. That's already a good definition there. Yeah. And then there is another one. It's on the tip of my tongue. I'll do some research, but it's not, Humanitech is not the only one that is working on in this space.
And Raffaele, were you getting at like the idea of common conventions in a portal, like a common provider interface or a common, plugin interface? Is that what you're getting at, or something broader than that?
I don't know at this point. I think it's too early to say, hey, there's going to be an interface, but it's clear that we are all trying to solve the same problem. So if we dig, we could possibly find some commonalities, right?
Yeah.
Right now we are solving the same problem in very different ways, it seems to me. That's where we are at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, like some companies are going to go to like the Humanitechs of the world and kind of have them as their sort of point for IDPs, right? I think some things we are starting to notice is in the industries that with Backstage just gaining such tremendous adoption, right? A lot of these platform teams kind of want to build the IDPs themselves because maybe they want more control. Maybe there's some specific requirements for their dev organization. Certain Humanitech will have certain resource drivers, which is great, right? They've developed themselves, but like, with Backstage and Crossplane, maybe they want a little bit more flexibility there in terms of the way they're managing the infra, right? So I think when we're talking about like what that standard is, I think the Humanitech point of view of course is really great, but also trying to understand like how someone, like what are kind of the key components someone needs to set up an IDP if they wanted to themselves, especially if they're a large scale organization, right? And what are kind of the key building blocks they would want to use, and sort of what is that interface, right? At the end of the day, as you were saying earlier, I think that would be really good to have.
And that is basically what we're creating services and products around. Not necessarily saying this is an IDP for you to just install and go, but there's a lot of tools that are applicable in all different situations for different reasons.
Yeah, exactly. You need to know when to plug and play, right? So yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I like how everybody. Yeah, Taras, that's okay.
I was going to say one thing I really like about the white paper that you put together. I think it gives people something it gives folks a way to understand the scope of the platform. I think one thing that I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think it kind of intersects with this conversation about companies like Humanitech, is that one of the things that I'm observing, especially because we're doing a lot of work with Backstage and we're seeing a lot of companies that are trying to use Backstage to build IDPs, there seems to be a pretty wide gap in understanding what it means to provide a platform as a service or as a product. I think part of that is that we're not seeing a whole lot of people who spend a whole lot of time thinking about what it's actually like to be a developer using these platforms, and that to me seems like a really it's like a white elephant in the room, because we're all talking about building these platforms, but very rarely do you ever hear about people talking about how do the users actually see this platform? And when you go to ask them, their opinions tend to be it's really, people get really emotional, but I think Heroku has done a really good job at capturing capturing the hearts of developers. I wonder if there is a way for us to help platform teams understand the developer angle a little bit more.
I think there's also,
to me, that boils down. Sorry, Abby, go ahead.
No, go on, Colin. Go for it.
I was going to say, yeah, we do a lot of work in the application development space in particular, and we got involved in this. You're okay. We got involved in this working group mainly through kind of the app dev angle. And for me, what really stood out existing in the white paper was the definition of roles and how people participate in the platform. And to me, showing how developers take place or participate or for themselves, but also articulating to like the IT ops folks and the platform engineers, how should applications developers be included and be expected to participate in this platform was really helpful to me, as far as like if I'm a developer referencing a standard for how a platform should operate, and it gives me the backup I need to communicate with the IT guys versus like the other way around as well. But I totally agree. We always articulate this as like the platform is the sandbox that all these parties play in. And this is kind of a play nice together set of rules and technologies that enable this is kind of my approach to what my definition of what the platform ends up being. So I really like that the existing stuff defines, you know, how do I participate? What is my role? How do these different areas participate? It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, how can we expand on that? I think that's because that's what one thing that makes companies like Humanitech, like that's where I think they do a really good job, is that they have to think about the product. Like they have to think about making it appealing to the users. How can we expand that to, how can we make that accessible to people who are building platforms from scratch?
I think that's the angle I'm super interested in, is like, so I'm currently in product world, but I've been a platform engineer for years, and it's like everyone has railed against full stack engineering because it's not realistic to deliver value each day and also have to worry about like configuring your VPN and your database, right? Like every engineer everywhere. And so it's been pushed to saying, okay, well, there can be an internal product that takes care of some of that non-differentiating work that is a product in its own right and can be delivered as a product to internal teams. That's where the platform comes from. But like, what tools do we have in that space right now? Like, you can buy it, you can buy Humanitech, you can start from like yarn install with Backstage. Like there's like, that feels like a very vast divide for the decisions of like building a platform. And so I think that platform engineer experience, we all are talking about the developer engineer experience, but they won't get a good one from a home built solution until we, I think, support platform engineers on how to build it, because they're going to be so busy trying to yarn install in their bash script that like they won't be able to think about that user experience as much as they want to.
Taras, I want to understand your comment. I observe the same in you know, when I work with the customer, the same that you described. But in our document, we tried to say many times that we want to take the developer's point of view. I think maybe it got lost in the last rewrite, but it was really always, you know, we do, you know, it's all about serving the developers, serving the customer of the platform, which are the developers. I think, right, Josh? That's
yeah.
That several times.
I was hearing from Taras that that's for sure, that's what we're saying. But now, like, as we understand the community, as we take it, that's what I'm kind of hearing from all of you is that it's that point between the developers, the app devs, and the platform engineers that we want to explore a little more, because all of you called out either API things like Crossplane or the UI like Backstage, like, so yeah, I think that was how I was here, Taras. I didn't think you were saying that the paper isn't reflecting that, but that in fact the boots on the ground, how do we engender more of a platform as a product mindset, or is that lacking?
I think, yeah, it's I think that like this white paper can't encompass everything, right? It's not going to be a Bible of platform engineering, right? Like, but I think what we could do is maybe as a follow-up work is what might be helpful is define what good looks like. Like, what is a good developer experience on a platform? What are the use cases that are important to enable in the platform? And then that could serve potentially as like we're thinking about what the prototypical platform might look like. Like, it could be based on those use cases, but putting the developer workflows kind of first, because that's one of the things that we're seeing a lot, even with customers who are adopting Humanitech and who are considering, you know, using Backstage with Humanitech, using building IDP from scratch. There's just one of the things we struggle with is that there's a lot of kind of meet in between of like what is it actually supposed to be that's missing for them. They get a general idea of that they want to have an IDP, but they're not really sure what an IDP looks like.
Yeah, and what governance controls they want as well, right? Like, so for example, like if we're talking about self-service infrastructure, is that for an entire cluster? Is that for a namespace? Okay, if it's for a namespace, what are sort of the governance controls that I want there, right? Like, I think so, and it's going to depend like widely depending on what organization you're at, right? But it's showing some sort of like guidance in terms of like, hey, if you're going down this path, here's how you should approach it, right? Or here's the things you could, stitch together or dive more deep into. I think is going to be key. Like, what are the developer workflows they want to enable at the end of the day, right? And there's, of course, the list is wide, right? I'm sure there's like a ton of them, but I think there's common themes that we could probably start to investigate or look into.
What I'm coming away as I'm listening is that we could kind of combine the idea of going a level deeper in a capability with these interviews and focus on the portal / interface as our first like point of departure. Because it seems, yeah.
No, I was just like what I'm thinking, like the platform white paper, so to speak. It is for me a very generalized way of looking at what does this platform need, like of functionality, of like interoperability, and everything like that. While I think the main reason why platform engineering should be the way that we do stuff, like for us that are building these type of platforms, is the customer focus and making sure that the people are having a good time using the platform. I think that is such an important part of this, that like squeezing that into this white paper would probably not, it would do it a disservice. I think we could have this is a technical platform, and these are the ways that you can implement these capabilities for this technical aspect of it. And then we could even have a full-blown, white paper just on making sure that the users of your platform are having a good time. Like, what do you do to make it better for them? What do you do to make it secure without hindering them? All those kind of things, because it's such a big topic that I think it kind of deserves its own, basically, white paper.
Yeah, I agree. Something more focused on product management for platforms and explore all that area.
Yeah, and like the product management or product development part of this is the one thing that whenever I talk to people who are starting to build services around these platforms, that's what they struggle with. It's not the technical part, like combining stuff and making it work. That's fine, but you need to be able to understand and have like empathy for your users and make sure that they have a good time. And that's a different type of skill set, and it's different topics, and it's more product management, product development centric than actual technical implementation, I feel.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's one of the things that we see a lot, is that there are certain skills, like it's technical part, they're used to figuring out, but asking questions and like having empathy for the circumstances and making sure that you solve problems to address those is something that it's just they haven't practiced that skill continuously, and they don't necessarily have, and they might not even know that they need a product manager, so they don't even have that skill on their in their organization. There isn't anyone internally who can say, look, like, we're not doing this, because they're just kind of a consistent view of how things can be. I think that's something that we could speak to more.
Yeah, I am excited. I think that, let's make this tentatively, does somebody want to open an issue? Like, let's go a little deeper into what the experiences with a platform should be like. Talk about, the different kinds of experience, different, I don't know, but we could open an issue to talk about that, and then we start putting that together, and it also can influence the interviews. Like I think Backstage users like that, for the same reasons that they're starting there, we should start there too. What do they see it that they want of a platform? What do they think? So yeah, it could
even what would be interesting before that, and just kind of playing a little bit of a devil's advocate here, is trying to understand, or trying to show some thought leadership in terms of like, how should you figure out what your developers need in some ways, right? Like that empathy
how
part
to interview.
Like, like what are the key, like ultimately these platform teams are serving developers, right? They're the end users. So like so they're the customer at the end of the day. So if we can show some thought leadership there in terms of like, how should you approach it? Do you need a product manager or not to kind of like drive continuous development of this IDP? Like trying to figure out like what are the key requirements, and then after that, like phase 2 can be like, okay, once you have these key requirements, just like you're developing any product, right? Like how do you kind of get to the technical side of things, right? And what are the key components? So for example, like if self-service infrastructure is not a huge part of your requirements, right? Maybe cross-plane doesn't come as much into play, right? Because you're kind of managing that yourself, or maybe it does. I don't know. I'm just giving a random example here, but I think it'd be good to have something which kind of demonstrates at least the empathy part first, and how do you really connect with your developers and figure out like what do they need to be successful, right? It might be a little bit. I know I might be a little bit wishy-washy here in terms of, because it's not as technical, but I think that's really important for the kind of platform story. Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm not good at empathy, unfortunately, but I've been with developers team that were so used to pain that you would ask them questions and how they wanted to, what you could do to make their life better, and they didn't have anything to say. Like they were so used to pain that they couldn't imagine a way to get a better life, like a better way of working. So we, that sometimes you have to even start from making them feel more empowered, and then they start to ask for, improvements. It's sometimes you even find those kind of teams.
It is a skill set knowing what kind of questions you need to ask for them to realize what they kind of need, or when can you just push forward to say this is how you're supposed to do it, because they you could be right and you could be wrong. Like that's that type of like that's like it's stuff that I learned being like a cloud architect. Kind of helps with that for customers, but it's still kind of hard, and it requires a lot of empathy. And even though I'm a technical person, like in certain aspects, that the person who are doing the development part might not be as technical on certain aspects of it. They might not realize that what they're doing could potentially be the wrong way of doing it. So it is a tough thing to do, to create products around something as big as a platform. People are talking more about it now, which I think we also should do, because I think it's one of the more important aspects of it. Because technical things aside, like if you whatever types of tools you are duct taping together to make a platform, it's still probably going to be a platform. It might be a crappy platform, but it's still probably going to be a platform. It probably will work if you're just doing stuff the right way. But then knowing how to make it accessible to others, and what things they have to go through, and like realizing where you can improve your platform, that is a skill that is not that easy to acquire, and not a lot of people are talking about it in an official manner, so that would be good.
Yeah. So we're coming up to time, so I'll just jump in here. I put in the notes what I kind of am hearing coming out here is, focus on that experience layer, and product management as a next topic. And I kind of think it overlaps with the idea of interviewing users. I guess, should we open, does somebody want to open an issue? I mean, I can, but
I can open the issue since I seem to have opened this can of worms. So I can open the issue for it. We can pick up from there. I can also post some of the resources because I've been tracking this. There's some discussions that happen in the platform engineering community, and there's some interesting talks from the Backstage community as well. So I can post some of those resources as a starting point, and we can go from there.
Yeah, that would be great.
That sounds great. And yeah, I'll definitely share that Medium article on our Slack channel. I think that's both blog posts were really illuminating for me. So definitely worth a read.
Awesome. Okay, and I think the other, just looking over, what was the other next steps here was to schedule a meeting, a review for the doc itself and the content itself next Tuesday at 10 at the same time. 10 my time. 1600. It's same. We didn't. Hey, it's a little tight here. Maybe we should we schedule it for next? I'm wondering whether we should do product demos here. I guess so. Should we do it next time?
Yes, absolutely. I think in next time we could do a demo here, but today on the short notes, we let people know what Parallels is, what community is all about. Just a 2 or 3 minute detail here is. So actually Parallels is now is a CNCF sandbox project. And I think we done great things. We have started the project, I think in last 2022 of July, I guess, and we made it 5 months of the projects and is now the CNCF sandbox. I think we are fastest to climb that ladder. I think it's a great work by the team, entire team. Really appreciated the effort they put on. Apart from that, we are also listed Parallels on the DigitalOcean marketplace. If you search on the DigitalOcean marketplace in the security category and search for Parallels, Parallels can be available as a one-click button install. You don't need to do anything else. You can run Parallels on MicroK8, Skynd, any Kubernetes cluster of your choice. But I think if you are in the AKS, GKE, or EKS cluster kind of a team, I think Parallels really help you a lot because there is a notion of, like a developer, you give access to the developer, he can see anything. He can see any namespace, he can deploy the stuff in any namespace. We don't has anything. So I will share the link on the, Abhinav, can you share the link in the chat as well while I'm talking? It's Parallels actually. So I think these are really, we're talking about developer empathy. So it's actually help developers giving the fine-grained controls of the access to the resources they only need. So currently, as of today, while I'm speaking to you, we are working on the AWS marketplace integration for the Parallels. Most of the time, things already been done. I think in a 2-3 weeks of time, you see Parallels in the AWS marketplace as well. So this is actually the currently process. We want this to Parallels to part of the GKE, Azure, on other marketplaces as well, because we see there's a big pain of giving developer access to the resources they need. Plus, we are looking forward to have some integration with the tools like RCD, Flux, because we see there is also need on those tools to have been a fine-grained control over it. So if you look at the Kubernetes ecosystem, if you look at the Kubernetes, when you talk with the Kubernetes, the first thing you hit with is the API server, and then the request goes to the different code. I think you end up talking to the validation controller, mutation webhook, and I think in RBAC is the first step you need to talk about it. So I think in terms of the Rafi Kubernetes operation platform, this is one of the best features in our platform. We see this is a need in the community. We don't have any other tool that give you this kind of liberty. Let's make it an open source. And once we open source it, we see a wonderful response with 600 plus stars. And we definitely want to get your feedback on top of it. And in future, we give you some demos of the Parallels because we run out of time today, but I definitely want your feedback on top of it because we want to have some integration in place for some developer portals or IDPs and see how platform can leverage this tool as well. So Abhinav, you can add anything you can.
Yep, no, that's good. I think since we're running short on time, I think that all of what you said makes sense, and we'll add some more light to to the capabilities and kind of what we're trying to solve for potentially in the next meeting.
Yes, absolutely. Over to
Thanks,
you,
guys. Yeah, no, thank you. That was great. Thank you. Yeah, we're a little over, so I want to let everyone go. Well, thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you all on Slack and GitHub and all those great things. Don't be a stranger. Ping me anytime.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye
you
bye.
too.
Everyone.
Thanks all. Bye now.
Have a
Bye.
wonderful
Bye.